All right, we are ready to talk golf once again. It's not a great time of year schedule wise after especially what took place on this past week, Jared. As unless you're a Tony Finau fan, it was pretty bad. Didn't understand the golf course. Didn't understand why it was so tough for everybody except Scott Piercy for 3.5 days. And then Scott Piercy decided to choke away an easy win. And Tony Finau did what he usually does when he can capitalize on his wins on the PGA Tour. He beats a bunch of bad golfers.
Yeah, and he comes from
Usually.
behind, right?
Yeah.
He comes from behind. I think
Yeah.
Jan has said that multiple times. Like if Finau and when Finau wins, it's going to be coming from behind, usually against a bad field. I don't know. I kind of like that golf course. I think it's
Is it tougher than we thought then?
So I think it's volatile in that it's scoreable if you're hitting good shots, but there's a lot of water. So if you're off, you can make big numbers. Yeah. And it was also windy. It was windy like 3 to 4 days, and that I think that helped Finau. We've talked multiple times on multiple shows, and we talked about the best wind players. Finau, I think Finau's been the best wind player over the last 2 years. If not one, he's like in the top 3. So I think the fact that it was so windy on Sunday, I think definitely played a part in his win.
All right, now we want to let everybody know, we kind of touched up on it last week briefly, that our schedule's changing. So Jared and I are going to do this for the next 2 weeks. Jan and I are working on a completely different show that we're going to be starting soon, or a report, I should say, that we'll be putting together. Who knows? Could be in a few weeks, could be in a few months. Football season's coming too. Jared's schedule is completely changing fantasy-wise, and obviously same thing here on our channel, and you're going to be seeing Jared and me, and we're going to talk fantasy football next week on our fantasy show. We'll talk about fantasy football a couple of times in August, and then every week starting in September. So our schedules are changing. I will have someone on, even if it's Jeff Shane, who's been on this program many times, to hit in for Jared if he's not available in a few weeks to preview the FedEx Cup Championships. So someone will be here along with me to preview the championships, and that might be our last show, but we just want to kind of let everybody know, and anybody that's been with us for the past few months, just keep in mind we will return in 2023. I don't know really when. Could be probably February, I would think, after the Super Bowl or something like that.
I can do January.
January.
Once the regular season ends for football, I free up. I'm betting the Sony
Open.
That's when I start.
Actually, I always get psyched about, especially like when it's like cold and you turn on the champions, whatever they call it this year.
Tournament of Champions, right? The first one in Hawaii.
Yeah. Kind of cool.
Always looks great. Always looks beautiful.
Because you haven't seen these really good players for like 6 weeks, and everybody gets together again, and it's pretty awesome. Anyway, okay, so for the next few weeks, we're going to just get right to it and talk about our picks. Before we do that, let's talk about your stats for this week, Jared. You have top 10 strokes gained approach over the last 3 months and top 10 on easy courses over the last 2 years. So yes, it's another easy golf course. But why did you come up with those particular stats, or at least the top 10 strokes gained approach over the last 3 months?
Yeah, I should probably include strokes gained approach every week, because that is always the biggest part of my model. If you look at what's most predictive when looking at PGA Tour winners, it's always the guys who gain the most strokes approach. And that's especially true this week. If you look at the guys that have finished top 10 on this course over the past 3 years when it's been played at Detroit Golf Club, strokes gained approach is about 3 times as important as strokes gained off the tee. And, it's about the same importance as putting, which is rare because usually, putting tends to play a big factor in this. So basically, strokes gained approach on this course is even more important than usual. So I wanted to sort of look at the, guys or whoever the last 3 months have been the best in that department.
Okay. And looking at your list, it looks like, what do you have? Davis Riley, who's in your picks. Chris Gotterup's in your picks. And is anyone else? That's it. Those two.
That's it. I couldn't, Brendan Steele let me down big time last week.
Did.
Again, you're going to have to make a lot of putts to win this tournament because it's going to be, low scoring. Steele is just, I don't think he's a good enough putter to make enough to win this one.
Okay. I have see, who do I know? He's not in my picks actually, but he almost made my picks, and that was Mark Hubbard, because I had Mark Hubbard last week and he withdrew.
Yep.
And you had Matsuyama last week and he withdrew. He was your top pick, but
Yeah.
that's why we have the alternates, so they come in handy. And yeah, so as far as the guys that really stuck out that were in both groups, that would be Mark Hubbard and anyone Tony Finau.
Yep.
And I think that's
I think
it.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's
so
it. Yep.
Patrick Cantlay's number one on your top 10 easy courses. He's my top pick. And I know you don't like going with the top players with the odds and things of that nature in these types of events. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I just went with Cantlay at 8-1, and I think he's going to get probably. I think Bovada had him at 10-1, which I threw some money on him at 10-1. But look, he's got 6 top 15s in his last 7, 3 of those top 5s, and a runner-up. He's the only top 12 player in the field. If he can't close, like if he, and I, you know, as easy as this golf course is, and you have a number 1 on your list for easy golf courses the last 2 years, that means he's probably going to be in contention. If he's in contention and can't close the deal on these guys, then he's in real trouble. But I just get the feeling that maybe this is the week.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked a lot of crap about Cantlay over the past month because he's just like had bad shots, had bad rounds when it's counted most. But I mean, you look at the results, you look at the stats, like he's playing really well. He's good on approach. He's a good putter, as the list shows here. He's, the best player on easy courses over the last 2 years. So everything lines up for a Cantlay win. Yeah, like you said, it's just the 8-1. It's tough for me to bet any golfer at 8-1.
And then, matter of fact, the number 4 ranked player on your top 10 easy courses is one of your picks, and that's Webb Simpson. He's your 3rd pick. So he's 50-1, your 3rd pick. Cantlay's my top pick at 8-1. And I know you've taken him a couple of times lately. I took him a month or so ago, but I've stayed away because he hasn't really. I thought he was headed somewhere, but
yeah,
it hasn't been the case. So why did you take a chance with him this week?
Yeah, so he struggled over in Europe, with the miscut at the Open. But before that, he had sort of been trending in the right direction. 20th at the PGA, 27th at the Charles Schwab, missed the cut at the U.S. Open, but then 13th at Travelers. You look at the stats, the ball striking has kind of returned, or at least it had before, the miscut at the Open and the miscut at the John Deere. So I'm just sort of betting on that. Like the fact that, like you said, he's the 4th best on easy courses. We know he can get hot with the putter. And he's also a good wedge player. This is a, shorter golf course. These guys have a lot of wedges on this course. So I think it's a pretty good fit for Webb Simpson, and he's 50-1. It just seems like a good number in a pretty weak field.
All right. Now your top pick was my top pick last week. So Heath Thegala, he's 40-1. So that you're getting better odds even than last week. Maybe that's because he's coming off a miscut. But I agree with you. I put money on Thegala again this week just because he had one miscut. I'm not going to worry about that. And it's not too much of a surprise because of, where he was coming from, and he hasn't really done this before. So having those extra couple of days off might have done him well.
Yeah, I'm just playing Thegala like a stock from here on out. I'm going to sell him when he's high, buy him when he's low. You look at his results, he's just so volatile from week to week, but he has those high-end finishes that we want when we're betting winners. I mean, we don't care about miscuts. Miscut is the same as a second place when you're betting outright. So I like that Thegala missed the cut last week. I think that's part of the reason that he's 40-1. Whereas, he was 20-25-1 a couple of weeks ago. He's still flashing the skills we want to see overall. As far as off the tee and approach goes, he's actually 1st in this field in par 5 scoring over the last 3 months. And there are 4 par 5s here. So I like that. I still think he's going to win soon, and I like the number at 40-1.
Yeah, while you were saying that, I'm trying to look and find out where he is on the FedEx Cup. I don't know why I can't find him on here. He's definitely in here somewhere, of course. I just can't find him. And that's going to be important, too. So when you're thinking about handicapping this week, Jan had mentioned this several times over the last few weeks, and she's 100%. And by the way, Webb Simpson is 125.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah.
So, I like that. I like it.
So you want those players, and we have players in that group. So that's one of them. So Thegala is your top pick. I mentioned mine. My number 2 pick is Cam Young. And I just figured that, look, at least he's got the week off. Thegala and some others didn't. And if he can kind of get off to the start that he got off to a couple of weeks ago in this field, maybe he could finally get his first win. And by the way, 2 out of the 3 winners of this event were first-time PGA Tour winners, which is not a surprise. So, look, it's just all about Cam Young getting off to a good start because that kind of came out of nowhere considering how bad he was playing.
I have serious FOMO about this one because I have had this event kind of circled for Cam Young for a while.
Really?
I just, I mean, you look at who won it last year, Cam Davis. He's a bomber who can get hot with the putter. That's Cam Young in a nutshell. I think this is a great fit for him. I like him on these lower scoring courses because I do think he can, get on these birdie streaks. I was just hoping for like a 22 or a 25 to 1. I just didn't quite get there because of the number.
Okay. Next up is your second pick, Davis Riley. And again, he is in your top 5 as far as the approach stats, strokes gained approach over the last 3 months. The only thing with Riley for me, though, is not just looking at his overall numbers of, say, the last 2 or 3 months, but his trending is going the exact opposite way that you would want your player to go. He has finished 5 straight events worse than his previous. So he's headed the wrong way, including a miscut last time out. So why jump on Davis Riley this week at 40 to 1 as your second pick?
Yeah, well, his putter has let him down the last 2 events. And, you look prior to that, he had gained strokes putting in 4 of his previous 5. So I do think he's a pretty good putter that just hasn't made putts the last 2 weeks. That happens. Now, the ball striking stuff has dropped off a bit from where it was in that, stretch where he had, 5 straight top 13s. The ball striking hasn't been as good the past couple of weeks. So that's slightly concerning, but I think, he's capable of getting back to that. He's another guy like Tagala. I kind of think we're buying low here at 40 to 1. We've seen Riley at 25 to 1.
Yeah, that's true.
In the last couple of weeks. I like him at this course. Again, he's been awesome on approach lately over the last 3 months. He's 12th in par 5 scoring over the last 3 months. Riley's also second in this field in birdie rate over the last 3 months, which I think is important this week because again, you're going to have to make a lot of birdies to win here.
All right. And third pick, yours is Simpson. Mine is Adam Hadwin at 40 to 1. And I mean, I've talked up Hadwin before in this show. I just don't like him like last week when his odds are low and he's one of the favorites. So at 40 to 1, I'm better there. He was also 4th a couple of years ago here, so he's had some success on the golf course. And remember, it wasn't too long ago he was top 10 at the U.S. Open. So I figured, okay, 40 to 1, I'll take a chance this week.
Yeah, better than what? What was that tournament a few weeks ago? He was the favorite at like 10 to 1.
Yeah, and he was the favorite, then became the second or third choice, but you're right. He was hovering around 10, 12, 14 to 1, and even last week I think he was 25 to 1.
Yeah, so you're buying low on Hadwin here. That's kind of the theme of this week's show.
All right, now you're our 4th picks, and you're going back to Mr. Svensson, even though he let you down last week.
How could I not at 100 to 1? I bet this guy at, what was he, 50 to 1 last week, 60 to 1.
True.
Yeah, I'm just hoping last week was a 1 week blip. It definitely wasn't pretty. The ball striking was not good. It was just the second time over his last 6 starts though that he lost strokes tee to green. I talked about last week Svensson learning how to putt. Evidently, he gained strokes putting last week for the 8th straight tournament. Which again, he's going to need to do to win this tournament. You're going to have to make putts to win this tournament, but he's been doing it lately. So if that continues, if he gets the ball striking back, and again, he's 100 to 1. His odds are basically double what they were last week.
Yeah, he's 94th, by the way, so he's fine. He'll be in the tournament. He'll be in the FedEx. My number 4 pick is Chesson Hadley, and how do I not go back to Chesson Hadley, who, by the way, is 130th in the FedEx Cup? So he's dialed in. He now has 3 top 10s in his last 5, including a 10th last week. He hasn't been this hot in a long time, so why not go with Chesson Hadley at 180 to 1?
I'm surprised he's 180 to 1 because he was in the mix for a while last week, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If he would have had a good day on Sunday, he could have been there for the win.
He did a lot of it with the putter, which is always a bit concerning. But I mean, he's a good putter. You look at his last few months, he's gaining strokes usually putting. He was good on approach last week. So I think this is the type of tournament I think Hadley can win because he can go low.
All right, next up, our 5th picks, and this is you're going back to Gotterup, and I'm going back to Hahn. Hahn's at 130 to 1. Gotterup is at 100 to 1. And Goddard just got off to a slow start last week. He seems to get
Exactly.
off to slow starts, but he got back into it and at least made himself look good later in the event. Hahn, meanwhile, has really been heading in the right direction. Is trending well over the last 5 events, including 4th last week. So I liked him last week, and I definitely like him this week. So what about going back to Goddard?
Yeah, you said it about the first round killing him. He was pretty good over the final 3. His putter also let him down last week. He lost 3 strokes putting last week, but he was 14th best in the field tee to green. He was 16th best on approach. Over the last 3 months, got her up 6th best in this field on approach. So again, I think he's a big talent. I think there's upside here, and another guy who is about twice the odds as he was last week.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, he hasn't played a lot, so I can't imagine he's going to be able to get into the FedEx unless he wins. I don't even know where his name is, but
Yeah, he's only played like I think 6 or 7 official
yeah.
events.
So, but he's definitely a riser. Okay,
Yep.
and our alternates are going to be our number 1 alternates. Well, your 2 alternates are Taryn and Buckley. Taryn's 130 to 1, Buckley 200 to 1. I'm going with Smalley at 80 to 1 and Sig at 100 to 1. Now, Taryn, I was also thinking about because Taryn seems to be playing better lately. 2 top 10s in his last 4, 7th last time out. He really is an Englishman that had a really good playing career in China, but now seems to be getting comfortable here. So I'm right there with you with Taryn.
Yeah, he's just caught my eye recently. I mean, it started at the U.S. Open. He finished 31st, but he was, in the top 10, I believe.
He was
on the board.
Yeah.
He was getting some TV coverage. I saw some Taryn shots, so I was like, I like this guy. And then he followed it up with the 6th at John Deere a couple of weeks ago, and then 7th last week. And he's doing it with ball striking, 6th in strokes gained off the tee and 17th on approach over the last month. So yeah, it just seems like a good number for a guy who I'm not going to say he's ready to win,
sure,
but he's definitely playing well, and it's a weak enough field where he could find himself in the mix.
Absolutely. Again, we're looking for guys that maybe have never won on the PGA Tour before, and he definitely fits the bill. So does Alex Smalley, who is trending in the right direction. 10th last time out. Let's remember he was 6th at Mexico, 10th at the Scottish Open, runner-up at Punta Cana, and he's got 3 top 25s in his last 4. So I think he's a nice under-the-radar choice at 80 to 1. And I went with Sig. I've mentioned Sig several times before on this program. I think he has a good future, and he goes out there and he finishes 7th last week. So I'm like, all right, well, why not go with Sig? So what do you think about those 2?
Do you see that mustache on Sig too?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's funny. I actually considered Smalley and Sig.
Really?
Yeah, my thing with Smalley is he's a bad putter, so I'm just not sure he's going to be able to make enough putts to win this week. Sig is the one I like more among those 2. Yeah, he's just playing well. He's gained off the tee in 5 straight. He's gained on approach in 3 straight, and 2 of those have he gained 5.3 strokes at the John Deere and 5.9 strokes last week. So his irons are really hot. And he's a hot and cold putter, but he at least shows the ability to have good putting weeks. So if he can put all that together, I definitely like that pick.
And then by the way, Taryn 126th in the FedEx standings.
Perfect.
Right where you want him. And then Buckley, and you mentioned him about a month or so ago, and ever since then, I've been monitoring him, and now I kind of felt the same way. Hey, why not put a buck on him at 200 to 1? He's made 5 straight cuts. 3 of those are top 30s, and we really started talking about him when he was 14th at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean that's the argument right there. He was 14th at the U.S. Open a month ago, and he's 200 to 1 in this field. I don't really understand that. Like you said, he's made all 4 cuts since the U.S. Open. He's gained off the tee and on approach in all 4 of those since the U.S. Open. He's actually top 20 in the field in both off the tee and approach over the last month. So he's playing way too well to be 200 to 1 in this field. Okay,
now as we round it out, there's a bunch of other players to consider in an event like this for sure. I was real close to going with Adam Scott as one of my top picks because I just get, Scott usually gets going at this time of year. And I think that in a field like this, I could see him playing well. I was also considering McCarthy, who's got 3 top 10s in his last 4 at 35 to 1, and Kisner at 35 to 1 because he finished 8th last year, 3rd the year before that. and in his last two events, 21st at the Open and 6th at the Travelers. So those are kind of guys. Those are the bigger names with odds that were a little low that were in my range. What about you as far as those types of players?
Yeah, Kisner and McCarthy I like because they're two good putters who can just get hot. That's what you're gonna need to do this week. So I like those two ideas. So Max Homa, my boy Max Homa is what is he 14-1 on DraftKings, but he's 25-1 on some other books.
Okay.
So that's tempting. I haven't bet him yet, but I might. Some other guys I looked at, Luke List always kind of has me because he's a good ball striker, but he's such a bad putter. I don't know if he can. List is better at tough courses. We saw him win at Torrey Pines. That's the kind of course. I'm probably going to stay away from List, but 100-1 is not a bad number. Two other guys I considered, Tom Kim, who we've talked about quite a bit. He was, I think he had like 2 good rounds and 2 bad rounds last week, but he definitely flashed again. He's a young up and comer. I think he's gonna win on the PGA Tour. And then Kurt Kitayama is still playing pretty well too, and he's 100-1.
Okay, and then I mentioned Hubbard. So I mean, remember 4th and 3rd in his previous 2 events. So at 55-1, Stallings was intriguing. He's got back-to-back top 10s coming in here, and he's trended in the right direction on this course at 55-1. Merritt was 2nd last year, 8th in 2020. So at but the 60-1 was kind of low. Pendrith is playing well at 60-1. I thought you were going to go with Cameron Champ, to tell you the truth, because he got off to such a slow start last week, and then he came on strong.
What's his number?
75-1.
Yeah, that's not bad. Again, he's a guy who has the upside when everything clicks to win. He's done it 3 times.
Nick Hardy, who's I've been picking lately, almost did it again, but he's coming off at 58th. Still, he's made 7 straight cuts with 6 top 35s at 80-1. Patrick Rogers has got 6 top 35s in his last 8. He's at 80-1. Your boy Gim, he's got 2 16th place finishes in his last 3 events, 3 top 20s in his last 6. He's 100-1. By the way, Ricky Fowler, I'd be interested to see if he plays well. Like if he could give us a top 20 this week, then maybe.
Is he going to the Live Tour? I thought he was going to Live. I don't know.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not as today. Could have happened today. I don't know. I haven't heard they always spring these things at us. I mean, Kokrak's now on the Live Tour.
Okay. There's a Live event this week. It's the one in New Jersey. I don't know. I can't bet it. I don't know if it's a New York State thing, but it's not in any of my books.
That's weird.
Yeah,
I saw it in my book, but that's Bovada. Who else? Let's see. Anybody else? Lee Biota, I'm intrigued with at 150-1. He was 4th here last year. He was hot at this time last summer, and he may be trending at the right direction. So he was also somebody that I was potentially looking at. And then the last guy was Piercy, because Piercy is 200-1. And he's coming off. He almost won last week.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I know he choked and all that, but at 200-1, if he wins this week, and I don't put $1 on him, I'm going to feel like an idiot. So anyway.
Yeah, I remember looking at Piercy because I saw that number, and the reason I didn't decide to bet him is because he gained 9 strokes putting last week. Wow. He was basically field average off the tee and approach. He just putted out of his mind, and that's just not sustainable. I mean, so he gained 9 strokes putting last week. The previous few events, he lost a stroke, lost half a stroke, gained 0.9, lost 4.4 strokes. So, I mean, last week looks like a total outlier to me.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
But he's 200-1, so.
It's just, that's the thing. He's 200-1. He's not 100. He's 200-1. So.
Yeah. Why not?
Now, next week is the last event before the FedEx Cup, the Wyndham, which Wyndham used to be a FedEx Cup event, or because they used to have 4. Maybe it was another event, but
I'm not sure. I know it's like the Webb Simpson Invitational. He always does well there.
All right, so that's on top next week, and we'll update everybody as well as hopefully I'll know by what our schedule will be like to preview the FedEx Cup event the week after that, which will be what is that one? The one that kicks it off? Is it the Barclays?
Don't they rotate those now? I know it always ends at Eastlake. I think
it's always the Tour Championship at Eastlake, and it's the Barclays, and it's something else. I always forget what it is, but I just always, I said it before, I like it when they come to Jersey City for their
Of course.
rotation. But anyway, we'll talk more about that next week. Jared, appreciate it. We'll talk next week golf, and then a day or two later, we're going to talk fantasy football. The transition starts next week.
Yeah, it's great time of year. I wish we could keep talking golf forever, but you know, football is my full-time thing, so got to do that.
Once the FedEx is over, it's dead.
Oh yeah.
So especially this year, because the schedule,
the swing season is trash.
Yeah,
we do have the President's Cup this fall though, right?
Yes,
that's always fun.
Yeah, but Ryder Cup is next year, so that's even better. So, but anyway, like we said, we'll return in January. It'll be unfortunately a quick football season because it's always quick.
Yes,
it's never long enough. Jared, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, thanks, Greg. See ya.